Hey everybody, my fellow Web3 citizens, welcome back to another episode of the Smart NFT podcast. I'm your host, Eugene Crypto MC, and today I'm happy to say that I'm joined by Benjamin Celermajer. He's a Chief Strategy Officer at perhaps DAO Synthetix, which is, as we already know, liquidity layer for on-chain derivatives. Now it's deployed on Base, Optimism, and Arbitrum. First of all, let me thank to Nick Widmer from Wachsman who made this episode possible. So, Benjamin, it's going to be a great talk, immersive talk, so I'm happy that you joined me. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to the chat.
We love to make episodes with the guys from Australia, where you are based now, because Envelop has been historically based on Bali, which close nearby to Australia. So let's start with understanding of your background. It's huge. You joined crypto, if I'm not mistaken, in 2017, when I did also. So how has your background in crypto shaped your current work with Synthetix for now?
Yeah, so I joined crypto back in 2017 professionally, as you note, as a fund manager. I did that for several years. I did that for 6 years before kind of finding Synthetix, and when I say finding Synthetix, I mean joining Synthetix. I was an early investor in Haven back in 2017. We invested in the ICO. It was actually one of the first investments our fund made, and have kind of ridden the wave ever since. Been big believers in what they were building back then, and then the pivot into Synthetix and what they ended up delivering. And I kind of came at Synthetix from a professional standpoint in the middle of the year, in chats with a few other large token holders, thinking of different ways that we can influence the protocol and hopefully have a bit more of an impact than playing a passive role as investors on the outside. And via launching or proposing a referendum, which effectively injected myself into the protocol, I kind of came with ideas and came with a design for what the future of Synthetix could look like. And then thankfully the referendum passed, and here we are today, 2.5 months in now.
Thus, all the DAO members, guys, I highly recommend, encourage you to go and read the blog post which Benjamin wrote. You find a link in the description. He literally saved Synthetix from a slow dying, I would say. I went for this dramatic story like for horror movie. So, Benjamin, in this blog post, which is named Synthetix 2025, a fresh start, you talk about revitalizing Synthetix, or reboot, renew its life, saving from literally dying, I would say, and probably. So, what's the dramatic story behind this amazing DAO, and how common? Because I also the DAO member, and I probably think that's probably we have the same problems there. How common are these governance issues, this DAO bureaucracy, which almost kills good DAOs among Web3?
Yeah, so I think Synthetix has kind of been one of the leaders of DAO governance over the years. I think it was one of the first, if not the first, protocol, like at least DeFi protocol, to come up with this multi-governance structure, which was voted in by or this delegated structure with multiple councils. And I think whilst the ambition and the intention of it was initially effective and did exactly what it was designed to do, I think over time it kind of became a bit of a lazy governance structure whereby you just had too many councils with members that would float in and out on 4-month epochs, and ultimately they'd kind of come with different ideas, different designs. The councils wouldn't necessarily connect, and so decisions from the Treasury Council would be made independent of the Spartan Council, which is meant to inform strategy, and strategy decisions were made without input from the financial side of the protocol, which was the Treasury DAO. And so I think for me, it made sense in a protocol that is still so early in its life cycle to kind of consolidate and come back to a bit more of a nimble, agile governance structure, which effectively is what the proposal was, to bring three councils of multiple members. I think it was 7 members on the Spartan Council, 4 and 4 on the Treasury Council and the Ambassador Council, and consolidate that into a single council of 7 members that was able to kind of come to the table with the full breadth of knowledge of the protocol, but also kind of all the different perspectives that are required to make key decisions for the protocol and do so in a much more kind of effective, agile manner.
Well, so being honestly, how do you think this referendum that you launched? By the way, we heard about proposals and voting, and have you invented this term referendum in DAO? Have you brought it today? Whether you were formerly business development practice in investment industry, and how this referendum did it help or not yet?
Yeah, so I think how did it come about? I think there is precedent for referendums in DAOs. I don't know that there's necessarily been a kind of takeover referendum like the one at Synthetix. And so I think the Synthetix one to me was particularly interesting from a governance perspective because pass or fail, I think it was the first time that a an external party that wasn't a member of the protocol or wasn't a core contributor had proposed something whereby they'd effectively inject themselves into the management of the company. And so I think for me it was an interesting one because looking at the governance structure, it's it always would have been hard to kind of go down the delegated governance to say, hey, uh, the guys that or the structure that I think is flawed, can you please vote for me to disband in that structure? And so the concept of the referendum, whereby the vote ultimately went back to all of the token holders, I think was very effective in getting a community pulse that wasn't necessarily that kind of circumnavigated the potential conflict of interest of the Spartan Council that would have been the ones who voted for their own disbandment.
Amazing
So that
story.
was interesting. I think in terms of what we've done, I think we've made some good strides early on. I think the protocol has been able to be a bit more nimble. I think it has been able to make some bigger, bolder calls in the early stages, which I do think are representative of the single council that has been able to kind of be more influential. We've acquired two protocols in the 2.5 months. We've kind of come up with a new design for the protocol, which we'll be announcing a bit more about next year. And we've just recently had a token redesign proposal. So I think they're kind of four pretty big changes that we've made in 2.5 months. The two acquisitions are Quenta, who are the leading front end for Synthetix, and TLX, who are a leverage token protocol that was built on top of Synthetix that's been around for just over 6 months.
Amazing. So, guys, I really encourage you to go read the story in the blog post. It's so dramatic. It's so common for both all vast majority of DAOs because DAO has have existed for how long? For 10 years already, probably. Starting with Ethereum idea, and because it's all decentralized nature and the standard practices of centralized management are not wholly applicable. And we honestly we need to use some elements of this centralized management. A seat, a console right here in this DAO decentralized area. So that's a lot. That's how we evolve, how we've been evolving for this decade. And looking back on 2024, Benjamin, what were Synthetix main results in numbers for those who probably know what Synthetix is? What challenges does it face right now, and what are its goals for 2025? Could you briefly elaborate for us?
Yeah, so I think Synthetix has historically, as you mentioned at the front of this podcast, Synthetix has been a liquidity layer which products have been built on top of. And it's historically, or at least for the last 4 years, gone down the path of being this B2B model whereby it would encourage, it would help, it would fund, it would market protocols that built on top of it, or products that built on top of it. And it would kind of sit as this passive liquidity layer in the background. I think for me, one of the early ideas was to kind of bring Synthetix more to the forefront. And what that meant was instead of hoping that people would come and build products, and instead of hoping those that were building products were building the products that you wanted them to build, or as effectively as you wanted them to build, is to become your own builder. And so that's where we went down the route of this kind of early flurry of acquisitions, whereby we're acquiring products that we ultimately want to build on Synthetix and kind of be the masters of our own destiny in that sense, whereby we're not reliant on third parties that might have their own priorities, their own strategic priorities that don't necessarily align with ours. But in terms of being in the box seat and controlling where we're going and what we're doing, it's a lot more I guess plausible and effective for us to be the owners of that. And so that's where I think you'll see us go a lot in 2025 is really really create a great product experience for customers as opposed to a liquidity layer for businesses that ultimately reach the customers. I think also being a lot closer to the customer will give us a lot more sense of what the customer actually wants. And so I think for us, 2025 is going to be a big year where we're very product focused and hopefully come to market with a lot of improvements to the exchange and a whole vault strategy, which we're still in ideation for, but it starts with the leverage tokens. And then through 2025, I think there'll be a lot more ways for, I imagine we'll make a lot more ways for users to interact with perpetual contracts in structured product via a structured product.
Well, those listeners who are probably interested in the specific goal rate, the blog post where Ben has written all the activity points which we probably think need to be undertaken to rescue, to save the DAO, to implement it for its survival in 2024. It's absolutely a guide for all the DAO who is involved in DAO governance. And when I was reading your blog post, I especially highlighted as a former salesman with a salesman mentality. You made it possibly BD, which means stands for business development, and you invented the term always be selling, ABC, reminding me this famous phrase from a famous movie. I don't remember the actual matter, but ABC, always be closing. Every salesman professional person know this phrase. And you invented always be selling mindset. And this shook me because I know that all the Web3 stuff is probably built with guys with tech mentality. They are not salesmen. They know how to build. They don't know how to make business development. So probably we are at the stage where business development skills are extremely highly needed now in Web3 space. So why you highlighted this importance of BD and ABS mindset?
Yes.
How prevalent are these changes for all Web3 projects? How common is this problem for DAOs now?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very important topic, and I think it's one that will again be at the forefront of Synthetix in 2025. Like you say, there's a lot of incredibly talented individuals, most of which in Web3 are developers, as you say, and builders. And I think kind of coming at it from a more commercialization lens and kind of okay, you can build a great product, but if you don't get the end user to turn up, it's a great product that has no traction. And so I think for us, it's really about how we can get our name out there, how we can kind of play the attention game within crypto, which I think is so critical for the success of protocols and the success of products, and how we can really how we can really push our channels to effectively like sell our product to customers. So that's the whole customer acquisition, like via customer acquisition strategies, and kind of developing channels whereby we hopefully can get more success in attracting end users to our products.
So talking, and let's not forget that we are talking about DeFi space, which faces questions regarding composability, fragmentations, layer 2 chains, because Ethereum roadmap is L2 focused, and Synthetix is built now on base, optimism, and arbitrum. So you know very well current problems, specific problems regarding all this DeFi development, regarding layer 2. So what are the main challenges that DeFi segment of Web3 faces right now from your viewpoint, considering all this Ethereum L2 focused roadmap?
Yeah, I think there's two very interesting things which I will note here. I think one of them is there's a lot of confusion as to where like if products are on base or Arbitrum or Mode or Optimism or Solana or Sui. There's just a lot of user friction between chains at the minute. And I think in terms of the ability to kind of abstract away from that, like ultimately where the user is, I think is critical for the prevalence of DeFi. I think the other big one is user accessibility, and so I think the concept that we want users to be able to be familiar with MetaMask and have a hardware wallet and store their private key effectively or securely, I think is a misnomer that the industry has to solve for. I think there are some great products and great protocols that are building to overcome some of those challenges. One that we work very closely with, at least, because of a shared co-founder, a shared founder is Infinex. So Infinex are doing a great job. I encourage anyone who hasn't tried their product to date to hop on. It's you can create an account in less than a minute, and it stores your. They use pass keys to log in, and so it's just like logging into any app on your phone where you use Face ID or your fingerprint, and effectively you can traverse multiple chains that they've onboarded without necessarily knowing that you're using those chains. And so I think they've built a great product, and whilst they've got a long way to go in terms of actually onboarding functionality to their product, they've come leaps and bounds in terms of the user experience for onboarding to Web3. So very excited to see what they do there.
Well, it's not a secret that watching you are reading your materials that you are highlighting potential competition from Hyperliquid. What should we know
Mm.
about this issue? Is it good? Is it bad? So,
Yeah, no, I mean, Hyperliquid have done a sensational job the last few months. They've got amazing volume through their protocol. They have an incredible airdrop to their users, to their loyal users, and it's been very successful ever since. I think they've come a great way in that attention game, as well as delivering a great product that's very close to parity centralized exchanges. And I think it's on us to really up our game and up the level of efficiency of our product so that we can meet and exceed what Hyperliquid have done. I think that'll be one of our core challenges for 2025, and I think we've got the pieces to do it. And whilst it'll be a road ahead for us to deliver on that, I think look, they're certainly the ones that we need to catch up with and overtake in the near future.
well, so probably we've finished the DeFi talking, and considering that our podcast is focused firmly on the NFT space and smart NFT space, I must, as a host, ask you about your vision on NFT segment and probably on the issue of potential combining NFTs, which are amazing part, with DeFi part, which are also the coexistence of this amazing part of Web3, and your thoughts on NFT, and also what do you want to say about the current stage of NFT?
Yeah, I think I mean I haven't thought too much about the intersection of NFTs and DeFi at the minute, but happy to have a bit more of a chat about that. But I think for me, I think one of the more interesting. I think NFTs are great. I think they're fun. I think people resonate with them. I think they're a brand, they're a product that people can build a connection with and can build loyalty to, which I think is a big part of any successful product. I think NFTs have had a pretty tough couple of years through the bear market, as of a lot of crypto products. I think NFTs are kind of a success of they're a luxury item. And so I think they're a success of the state of markets. And so where I think that the next 12 months of markets are looking like there might be some positive tailwinds coming out of a Donald Trump win in the US election, and a rate cutting cycle that looks like it's continuing, and a few other factors that I think will provide tailwinds to the crypto industry, such as positive regulation and inflows from ETFs, which seem to not be slowing down by any means. I think that will probably create a bit of a wealth effect in crypto if it plays out that way. And so I think NFTs could be very successful in that scenario.
Absolutely. And going beyond NFTs, DeFi, which also an amazing parts of technology innovation in 21st century, what are probably another important trends Web3 space, which you highly recommend all of us community to follow in 2025?
Any other core trends? I think, look, I think the kind of, as I mentioned before, I think one of the trends that will be super critical is how you onboard the everyday user. And I think we've talked a bit about that in terms of like just being able to onboard them with things like pass keys now that the technology's there, and being able to give them access to products, be it NFTs or DeFi, through a simple interface where they're not necessarily knowing that they're interacting with DeFi, but for them it might look as simple as like interacting with Robinhood or a app store, or a little web store. If they're buying NFTs or something like that, I think creating a very simple, understandable user experience is critical. I think the other big trend is probably going to be the onboarding of real world assets. So now that I think you've got institutions who have come to the table, I think dollarization on blockchains will continue to expand and will continue to exponentially grow. And I think with that, you'll start to see a lot more assets end up on chain. I think you could see anything from properties to equities to non-publicly listed equity end up on chain. And I think people could feasibly potentially do some very cool things once some of those products do end up on chain, such as fractionalization or partial or I guess borrowing against some of these assets through things like Aave or be it other DeFi protocols or using them as margin to take out a loan. I think things like that will really take front and center stage this next phase as you really get institutional adoption starting to heat up.
Well, let me ask you finally, what are your favorite sources of information? How you learn in the space? How you educate yourself? Whom do you read? Whom you follow on Twitter? So give us your recommendations. How to grasp quality information about what's going on in the space.
Yeah, I'm a big podcast guy, so I listen to a lot of the top podcasts, and I think in terms of just getting through content very quickly and kind of also learning things that you might not otherwise have or have visibility on, because if you're on Twitter and you follow the same people that kind of go down the same trends, you might not necessarily catch on to new trends that don't necessarily make it onto your feed. And so I think having following podcasts to me is the most effective way, whereby I think you, by nature of the podcast, having very different types of guests speaking about very different topics, like a DeFi guy turning up to an NFT podcast, you naturally just I think get some very good knowledge and very good breadth of items that you might not otherwise get. And I think that kind of gives you the opportunity to identify what you might be interested in or what trends are up and coming, and kind of do some more exploration off the back of that.
Well, in the end of our talk, any calls to action for the community? What should every listen who probably familiar with Synthetix or probably not? What should he undertake? Steps 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I encourage those that like trading to check out our platform. If you do go to synthetix.io as of Tuesday this week, sorry. We have all of our products hosted there now, so that is our exchange as well as our leverage tokens. I think in the new year, as I mentioned, you'll start to see a lot more products pop up, such as vaults, which do allow users to get access to structured products that use derivatives markets. And so I encourage people to check it out. I encourage people to have a play around. Derivatives and trading with leverage is very risky, so please be very careful and learn up before taking any steps in any actions. But if you did want to check it out and you did want to have a trade, it's a fun place to do so.
Great recommendations, a great story, and great advices from Benjamin Celermajer, our Chief Strategy Officer at DAO Synthetix, for all DAO fans, for all DeFi fans, for all NFT users. We've learned a lot from this episode. Thank you very much, Ben, for joining us today. And guys, if you are not familiar with the issues that we've discussed today, go and read Ben's blog post. It is absolutely must have the source of information for all, I would say, not newbies in Web3 space, but for professional founders, professional participants of Web3 space. We need to learn from these pieces of content, podcasts, blog posts, talkings, Twitters. So this is how we learn, how we build the industry. This has been an episode of the Smart MT podcast. I'm Eugene Crypto MC. Please like, share, subscribe, follow us everywhere. Stay tuned for next great content from great founders of Web3 from the worldwide, wherever they live in the planet Earth. Thank you very much and bye-bye. Blockchain. BLOCK chain. Digital money, smart contracts, NFT, IDO, decentralization, transparency. So many opportunities, but so many challenges. Some financial manipulators, by their actions, confuse blockchain solutions and block their development. The idea that the blockchain should bring copyright and royalties protection to the next level is quite old, but the realizations of these ideas are not perfect at all. There is another problem of determining the value of a particular cryptocurrency or NFT. These and other problems need to be solved. Fortunately, the blockchain infrastructure is evolving. My name is E, Mr. E, and I represent the Envelop project. Many things have already been invented in the blockchain today. Tokens, smart contracts, platforms for creating your own coins, NFTs, exchanges for buying, selling, and exchanging all these blockchain resources. Envelop is another step in the development of crypto technologies. The protocol that works with NFT and cryptocurrencies. The idea is simple but disruptive. Let's assume you have an NFT, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Using the Envelop protocol, you can wrap the original NFT accompanied with several tokens. Technically, you get a similar NFT, but what is the breakthrough here? Once wrapped, the token has a number of additional features that were not available before. The minimal cost appears. It is provided with coins wrapped together with NFT. An asset wrapped with Envelop has a number of properties that allow the original author to receive royalties from the resale of that asset. Various rules can be applied to the wrapped token. For example, a lock period for unwrapping. It secures the asset till the determined moment or safeguards it from speculation during the hype period. At the same time, wrapped tokens can be transferred and traded. These are just some of the scenarios for using Envelop. NFTs become more popular, and the tools provided by Envelop expand the opportunities of NFTs utilization. Wide application possibilities are achieved due to the fact that, in addition to the protocol, the project includes a number of subsystems. The protocol provides functions wrapping and unwrapping. Oracle mechanics provides asset valuation using analytical algorithms. Index provides a summary assessment of several NFT assets with the common criteria. The project has its own token, which connects all elements of the system. Altogether, this is Envelop, a tool in the blockchain world for building modern and secure systems in various fields. Find more info about the project on the website. Envelop. Make your NFT valuable. Just practical, no hype.